Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
On behalf of Chancellor Keith Motley and the Boston State College Steering Committee, welcome to our 6th annual Boston State Celebration and our 5th annual Education for Service Awards. My name is Jerry Burke, and I have the honor of acting as your Master of Ceremonies this evening. It's wonderful to be here tonight with so many longtime colleagues and friends and former students from our days on Huntington Avenue. Let me begin our program by commending alumnus Arthur Bowes and the steering committee members who helped plan this evening's festivities and really who did a terrific job in choosing this year's honorees. Would the committee members please raise your hand and let's acknowledge them with a round of applause. I'd also like to welcome all of the past Boston State College faculty and staff who are in attendance this evening. If you'd raise your hand too. There are several past recipients of the Education for Service Awards with us this evening. Pat Cronin, Mickey Roach, Peter Safaris, John Moon, Mary Grasser O'Neill. If they'd raise their hand, let's give them a hand. I think a special mention should be made of Dr. Richard Newman, class of 1936 at Teachers College, Boston, a beloved teacher and colleague and friend to many of us here this evening, who sadly passed away this past year. Lest I forget, we have members of the class of 1963 who are celebrating their 50th anniversary. That is Selma's class, by the way. I heard they're very rowdy.
This is true.
Yes. The Education for Service Award recognizes Boston State College graduates, professors, or administrators who have done an outstanding contribution or made them in the fields of education, public service, or industry. Through their distinguished leadership, award recipients personify the college's motto, Education for Service, and they are examples of the Boston State College legacy, which I am happy to say lives on here at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. Shortly, we will present these awards to 3 distinguished and accomplished alumni and staff. Cowell D'souza, John Flores, class of 91. It's wonderful seeing a younger generation doing well. And Selma Sachs, who is here this evening with her husband. I congratulate each of you, and I'm delighted actually to acknowledge your family and friends who are here with us this evening. So we should give them a round of applause as well. It's now my pleasure to introduce our co-host for this evening's event and the Chancellor of the University. You've probably been wondering who this man is sitting up here.
Yeah, who is
Dr. Keith Motley. Yes. Not yet. Dr. Keith Motley is the 8th Chancellor of the University of Massachusetts, Boston. He is currently overseeing a newly launched and highly ambitious strategic planning initiative that reflects the university's determination to remain true to its origins as a teaching institution while enhancing its standing in research, preparing its students to succeed in a transnational world, and graduating significantly larger numbers of students with a well-known knowledge dedicated to public service. In support of this strategic initiative, he is also building a 25-year master plan for the physical plant of the university that will significantly enhance the face of the campus and its layout here on the peninsula of Columbia. Chancellor Motley leads an institution of approximately 16,000 undergraduate and graduate students, a full-time and part-time faculty of more than 1,000, a $323 million annual budget. And during his tenure, student financial aid has increased over 120%. Research spending has grown nearly $56 million, and private development funding has grown by nearly 200%. Additionally, under his leadership, the university has earned recognition by the Princeton Review as one of the 150 best value colleges in the United States. It would be difficult. It would be difficult, if not impossible, to name an individual who has done more to honor and celebrate the legacy of Boston State College and its predecessor institutions at UMass Boston than Chancellor Keith Motley. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes once said that it is the province of knowledge to speak, and it is the privilege of wisdom to listen. Thank you, Chancellor, for appreciating more than anyone we know the difference between knowledge and wisdom, for constantly speaking out to preserve the name and traditions of Boston State, and for listening when the occasion called for it from faculty and staff who had suggestions, and quite simply, Chancellor, for being our champion. Ladies and gentlemen, Chancellor Keith Motley.
You got it, man. Thank you all. I mean, this is so wonderful to see you all again. I remember just wondering if we could fill this room. And then walking in here today, you know, I always have something to be a little jealous of Boston State about. You know, I used to sneak in your gym when I was an athlete on Huntington Avenue because our gym would close early for other practices, and I never got in trouble on your campus. I sort of was able to go. So all my predecessor presidents that I stand on the shoulders of today, I'm thankful and grateful to them. Then I walk in here tonight, and just when I thought I had my swagger back, you know, that I could walk around with my chin up and all that, I'm told, Chancellor, you're going the wrong way. Tonight, you have to enter the room from the other side. So I'm saying, wow, they want me to come in and make this grand entrance. And I walk in, and you've all taken over the whole room. We've gone from a little itty-bitty room like this one that would have held all of us to not being able to fit in the room. And you're even smart enough to have enough chairs in the room, finally, for everyone to be able to sit in. So I'm so grateful to the committee. Give them a round of applause. How about this guy? You know, he gets up here and he goes through his presidential thing, you know. And so chancellors, when other presidents come to their microphone, we get a little bit antsy. But I'll give up this mic anytime to this guy who's given his life to higher education, who is a committed alum of this institution, who always is willing to answer and give advice, and his model for all of us who are trailing him, trying to catch up in this race to be a great leader in higher education. All I can say is thank you, man. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your model. I love how smooth he always is. He sort of eases up to the microphone and does his thing. You saw him give me my weight, young fella. Let me finish this. I'm going to show you how you're supposed to introduce somebody. Short and sweet. And then he had the nerve to write on my remarks tonight. Short. Then he had the other nerve to say on my remarks that not only were they going to be short and sweet, but he wanted me to know that I'm only half the host tonight. Did you hear him? You are half the host. Because we're hosting with you tonight, son. That's what we've always wanted here. We wanted you to feel at home on your campus. at your university, at the only public university in this city that has stood with this city since its founding. It doesn't go back just to 1964. You all know it goes back to 1850-something, Boston Norm 53. And so quiet as it's kept, well, I don't want to get into that. That our beginnings precede any others in this system. But that's okay. We came together in 1964 to celebrate all those great legacies. The founders had a vision that said, stand with the city. It said, always embrace your history, but build on it. And so I'm so grateful that every single one of you in this room, whether you were a faculty member who served so outstandingly at that campus, or whether you were a student there, or whether you were just someone who happens to be part of the family of someone who was touched by our institution, I'm so grateful to you because you built a legacy that we can continue to build greatness around. And I'm so grateful for that. It's my pleasure to co-host this event tonight with the Boston State College Steering Committee. It's great to have you here to mark the 6th annual opportunity for us to celebrate. And I'm so grateful when I walked in, I saw that green in the other room. I'm grateful to the members of the steering committee for their voluntary leadership. Volunteered, thought this thing out, have made a difference, called people, made sure that this event was together. Thank you to all of you for establishing this wonderful tradition. You know, traditions matter. They matter. You know, we don't want to have opportunities that just pass us by because we determine that it's not important to honor those who came before us and made a difference. So this is one of those traditions that I run to. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the members of the university's Board of Visitors that are here with us tonight. We're joined by our Vice Chair, Selma Sachs, and also by John Flores, who's here. Both will be honored this evening, and I'm honored to be able to stand here and watch that. In addition, Board of Visitors member Art Bowles and also Tom Feenan, and I also know that Mary is standing back there. Grasso O'Neill's here. I'd also like to recognize our Alumni Association board members, Pat Armstrong, Jim Hunt, and a person who we just, everywhere you go, he's there. Where's Joe O'Brien? Joe, where you at, man? Look at him. He's there. I also want to welcome the family and friends of everyone that's here in the room tonight, particularly our award recipients. I couldn't even sit in the front row. On the right side, the seat says Chancellor Motley, because there's so many people attached to the Flores family over here.
All my daughters.
I know, I saw, and I see how you're protecting them too. Dad is like lined up. But Dad, I have this beautiful wife over here already. My beautiful wife, Angela Motley, who's here tonight. I guess she's also co-hosting with me tonight this event. I'm so grateful that she took time out of her wonderfully busy schedule, doing all the things that she has to do as a mother, wife, daughter, and all those other components that make strong women. And she's here, so I'm so grateful for that. I also want to give a shout out to my crew in the back, sitting back there in the balcony. I love seeing you all every year. Thank you for coming. You know who you are. You're back there. Wave your hands in the air. Shake them like you just don't care. Thank you all for being here. Mr. President, it was great seeing you. I'm glad you're here. You told me you'd be here tonight. And Peter, I know as president of Quincy College, you got a lot to do. I told him the other night, dear, that our daughters taking classes in high school connected to your college, and it's because she met you on a boat a couple years ago with Ted Kennedy, who was sitting by you. who they mistaken for Ted Kennedy. And so I'm so grateful to have both of you here. Look, is that Ted? Is that Ted Kennedy back there? And so also Elliot is here. Selma's husband, Elliot, is here tonight. And so, Elliot, we're so grateful to see you. So to Andrea, Kimberly, Amy, and Katie Lou, Brian, Bob, and Rudy, thank you for showing up. We're so grateful to that. Also, every year when we gather, there's a tremendous feeling here in this room of warmth and pride among the Boston State alumni. I love seeing your faces when faculty walk into the room, that you remember for all the things and staff that come into the room. I love that. And when you see each other, just as the college has had a tremendous impact on your lives, its legacy continues here at this university. So many people ask me, well, Chancellor, why do you have Boston State's paraphernalia all over the bookstore? Why not?
That's right.
Why? Yeah, it sells. He's a good businessman. Because I'm a good businessman. But more importantly, it's the right thing to do. And it sells. But there's a tremendous feeling of warmth and pride that goes along with that, and we never want to sort of stifle that. So thank you all for reminding us of that for so many years as part of this family. When I walk into that room all the time, I see something different. That room right next door, the college's influence can be seen all over that room. It also can be seen in the College of Education and Human Development and in our College of Nursing and Health Sciences. Origins they have origins on Huntington Avenue, and that is so wonderful to have today. And so, without further ado, we also have, Anahim, would you stand up? Our newest dean is here, Dean of our College of Nursing. Now, I need you to do me a favor. We need to look her in the eyes, and we need to do our fingers like this, and because she's from Miami, and we need to let her know, it's not that cold. It will never snow up here. You will be okay. Don't worry. You'll be all right. So everybody, when you get a chance, hypnotize her. That's the power of this room. Hypnotize her. Let her know. So on a daily basis, I'm fortunate to have the opportunity and the wisdom and counsel of two former Boston State faculty who serve on my executive staff. One is our Associate Chancellor, who is Terry Mortimer. The other is our Provost, Winston Langley. And Professor Langley is our Provost and academic leader here. So this Boston State College legacy also lives on in each and every one of our graduates, in your professional lives and also in your community involvement. You bring the knowledge and the skills learned up on Huntington Avenue to so many fields of endeavor, and we're so proud of that. For many, the call to service that you have is one that you embraced in careers, in what you served, but you dedicated yourselves to improving the quality of life in so many cities and towns across this Commonwealth, across this country, and all over the world. It's a beautiful thing, and thank you for that. Recipients like the ones we're going to honor this evening truly embody the college's motto, education for service. And that's a wonderful motto that still stays with this institution today. It's a vital part of your college legacy, but it's a vital part of your university's legacy. I also want to congratulate tonight's award winners, Selma Sachs, and also John Flores, and former Boston State College member, Cowell D'souza, recently retired. Now, we were teasing Carol earlier today Because every time I turn around, Carol's getting some kind of award around here. So she says to me, if I'd have knew this, I would have retired a long time ago. No, Carol, we knew you were a jewel. We tried to, that's why we're trying to keep you around here, keeping you involved, and we're so grateful to have you here. I also want to take this important opportunity to thank our honorees for all they've done for this university, the University of Massachusetts, Boston. They're all exemplary volunteers. They make it happen in every space they're in. They champion this cause, they champion this public university, as well as charitable supporters of this institution. We're grateful for that. Finally, and this will be my only finally tonight, because I'm feeling it from Mr. President. He's giving me that big stare. He's like, I don't care how tall you are. You have marching orders, and I know you're starting to wind up. So while I'm getting ready to wind up, I'm going to wind down. Okay, Jerry? So finally, finally, I know. I want to express my thanks to those who've contributed to the Boston State Scholarship Fund. Through your gifts to this fund, you're not only paying tribute to your alma mater, you are helping to ensure that future generations of students are able to come to this institution. Every penny you give goes back to our students. And I don't know where you can find an institution that's dedicated to that. You heard the amount of financial support we give, not only need-based, but merit-based as well. And this is based on those who want to go and make a difference in society through the legacy of Boston State. And so thank you all for being here tonight and helping us honor Boston State. I encourage you to continue your involvement with the University of Massachusetts, Boston, as we further this college's proud legacy that started at 625 Huntington Avenue, ended out on this beautiful peninsula with all that you see that's so exciting out here happening today. We know it's because you walked those streets and rode those trolleys and pushed some of those cars to school and put those jumper cables on the ones that wouldn't start and all those kinds of things. And now we want to give to the future. And a university that has all the bells and whistles that these students, these faculty, you as alumni deserve. And so that's why you see lots of mud flying, lots of buildings happening, and lots of futures being developed so they can go out and change the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody. So grateful just to have you, and I'm so honored to be allowed to be your chancellor. So thank you so much. And so I'm out the way. I only come back to say thank you at the end. I'm going to hand it back over to my colleague and allow him to move us through what we're really here for tonight, the ceremony honoring our awardees. Thank you.
You know, there's a whole list of reasons why I admire and like Chancellor Motley, but high up on that list is the fact that he makes me smile. You know? Our first...
We're dancing. We're having a ceremony upstairs, a Kwanzaa celebration.
All right.
So the students are it's African dance.
Okay.
So,
Okay. My wife had an opportunity this past week to substitute in the first grade in Brockton in a rather tough section. And she had this little boy come up to her and say that that girl called me a word. So she called the girl up and she said, what word did you call him? I didn't call him anything. She asked the second time, what word did you call him? I didn't call him anything. This went on for about 2 minutes, and finally she said, I'm going to give you one last chance to tell the truth. What word did you call him? I don't remember. She said, well, now I know you're not telling the truth. So she called the boy up. And she said, what word did that girl call you? And he was very nervous, and he looked around, and he said, underwear. They're still innocent. That is. Our first honoree this evening is alumna Selma Sachs. Selma, from your early career as a high school teacher in Los Angeles to your current role as the director of the Center for Quality Teachers at the Wexford Institute, you have dedicated your considerable professional talents to serving public school students and teachers. A first-generation graduate of Boston State, you know the important role that supportive and engaging teaching and learning environment has in preparing young people to succeed. Using your expertise in technology and education, you have collaborated with policymakers at the local, state, and national level to bring digital resources to public school classrooms. In your tenure as president of the San Marino Board of Education, the school system was recognized as the top-performing district in California. Under your leadership of California's Education Council for Technology and Learning, you work with state legislators to develop the landmark digital high school legislation, providing funding to wire high schools' classrooms, and in technology sections of the President George Bush's No Child Left Behind initiative that you helped draft. We see the lasting impact of your knowledge and expertise. Here at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, you are a tireless champion for our mission. In your role as vice chair of our Board of Visitors, you have played a critical role in engaging alumni and new friends. And as the benefactor of the Sachs Family Fund for teacher preparation, you support the next generation of urban school educators. Through your outstanding contributions in the field of K-12 education and exceptional commitment to the University of Massachusetts Boston, you personify Boston State College's education for service and serve as an exemplar of the college's legacy. Selma, someone once said that no one grows old simply by living a number of years. We grow old by losing our ideals. And that is one of the clearest statements I know for why you are forever young. Service above self is the basis of all worthy enterprise. And you, Selma, have dedicated yourself to that ideal, not by words alone, but by action. You know that happiness rests not in what you have, but with what you enjoy. And your joyful dedication both to the ideal and the deeds of service have spread your gift of happiness across the UMass Boston campus. Thank you once again for all that you have done.
I am truly honored and truly humbled, not simply by being here to receive this award, but to be surrounded by such incredible people who give every single day so much to students, to faculty, to each other. It is just an incredible place to be at an incredible time in my life. No one receives an honor for truly doing the work that they do with love and with care. We do these things on the shoulders of others who taught us well, who gave to us everything that they had so that we had the example to follow to give to others. Education has moved my heart. Helping others has moved my soul. and being able to represent my college in whatever role God has put before me has been far and away the greatest joy of my life. Other than my wonderful husband and my wonderful son, who could not be here today, he lives in California with our grandchildren, just recently moved back from 7 years in Australia. So Grammy and Papa are really happy. And I will say one more thing. There is a very tall gentleman in this room, other than Jerry, who I will follow to the ends of this earth, because he so embodies what all of us knew in our hearts and in our souls about the tradition and the honor of being a graduate of State College, Boston. Keith Martin. And for all of you who are alumni and alumnus of State College, remember those days when every year we came back to a different named place. We would leave in June and go off to earn enough money to come back in September. And it went from State Teachers College, and then one year you'd come back and it was State College. And then the next year it was State College, Boston. And then finally it was Boston State College. And I was treasurer of our class all the years we were there. And we saved our money and we husbanded our resources. And our class gift was a sign to be installed on the Huntington Avenue side of the campus. And we were all jazzed, and it was black, and it said Boston State College, and we were thrilled to death. And then we came back and they said, you know, you got to change that sign. And we did. But thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for recognizing, not me, but all the people who are behind me, who gave to me that which I was able to give to others. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those very heartfelt and eloquent words. I have to get my things in order here. This older couple was invited to a costume party, and they had to go in complimentary sort of costumes. And so the husband said, well, we could go as Beauty and the Beast. And the wife said, no, you know. Well, how about Jack and Jill, she said. Please, he said, it's got to be age appropriate. Well, we could go as Batman and Robin. Please. So they sat trying to think through what they would wear. And finally she said, I have it. And she went upstairs to the what is upstairs? See that? I'm having a senior moment. Yes. And he heard her rummaging around, and she came back down with his old army uniform. And he said, what's that for? She said, well, I thought that you could wear the top, and I could wear the bottom, and we could go as upper and lower GIs. older people will realize what that is. Explain it to the youngsters. Our next honoree is a proud Boston State College alumnus, John Flores, Executive Director of the United States Distance Learning Association, Executive Dean and Program Professor at Nova Southeast University's Fischler School of Education and Human Services, Superintendent of various schools in Massachusetts, Director of Media Services. These are just some of the few titles that you have held in a most distinguished career in education and business, John. Driven by a commitment to serve others, you have applied your leadership talent, your knowledge as an educator, and expertise in technology to improve public education and to develop workforce talent for a global economy. In our Commonwealth, where you provided many years of service, you promoted high expectations, improved learning environments, and student achievement. As Executive Director of the Massachusetts Corporation for Educational Telecommunications, try saying that a couple of times, you expanded technology to our state and helped hone the Commonwealth's reputation as a national leader in distance education. With a keen understanding of the tremendous potential of this channel of learning, you have brought educational opportunity to students and workers in the United States and really around the world. Beyond business, you have harnessed technology to improve the life of our society's most vulnerable. The deaf and the hearing impaired, those living in isolation in rural America, and nomadic populations in developing nations, all have benefited from your advocacy, John. Your commitment to giving back extends to your philanthropic involvement with the University of Massachusetts, Boston. As chair of the College of Education and Human Development Advisory Board, as a member of the Board of Visitors Executive Committee, and advocate for the Nantucket Field Station, you have dedicated considerable time and financial resources to furthering our public higher education mission. And through your outstanding contributions in the fields of education and technology and telecommunications, you personify Boston State College's Education for Service motto and serve as an exemplar of the college's legacy. John Henry David Thoreau could have had you in mind, John, speaking of you, when he said that if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life he has imagined, he will meet a success that is unexpected in his common hours. Your accomplishments and your commitment to UMass Boston have been nothing but extraordinary, John. Nothing common at all. So without any further ado, I want to recognize John Flores for the Boston State College Education for Service Award.
One day we're going to snatch your name tag off.
Just 1 minute now. That's it. Great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, I promise to be brief. It's probably to your advantage that I had a minor throat surgery last week, so I'll keep this somewhat limited. But let me begin by first thanking all of you who came out this evening to attend the event. No one appreciates it more than I do, and perhaps my family sitting here in the front row. But I was looking at the program and realized that 41 years ago, December of '71, is when I finished my undergraduate program at Boston State College and began my teaching career around the corner here at the McCormick School. I was coming in as a long-term substitute, and it's amazing that 41 years later, I'm back around the corner to the day almost, accepting this absolutely wonderfully, incredibly unexpected award. With my sincerest thanks and really sincerest appreciation, as I tell folks, what started really as a career to be a teacher at Boston State when I graduated from high school in '67, I was the product of, similar to what many of you folks are probably in this audience. I'm from St. Ambrose Parish in Fields Corner, Dorchester. And it has served me quite well. And attending St. Ambrose Elementary School, I remember the principal used to always say, when our kids graduate, we send them to Yale, and we send them to jail, and we send them to everywhere in between. Fortunately, I didn't go to Yale and I didn't go to jail, but very fortunately I did go to Boston State College, where I learned the conundrum of answering the question, is teaching an art or a science? And I discovered at Boston State College that it's both. I learned the science of teaching, the science of being a true educator as an undergraduate student at Boston State College, and I probably learned more in those last 2 years, my junior and senior year, during those methodology courses in the student teaching and all of those activities, than I did when I got a master's at BU and my PhD at Connecticut. There was something special about the faculty, about the fellow students, that understood, especially in that era of the late 60s and the early 70s, where it was time to give back to society, and it was time to really become, if you would, an advocate for children, for students, and helping them further their education in their own beliefs, in their own dreams. To tell you the truth, 41 years ago, I never would have ever expected to be here 41 years later accepting this award. It's been a long walk from Fields Corner, Dorchester, let me tell you. But along the way, I've met presidents, and I've met kings, and I've met queens, and I've had great experiences, and probably some of the warmest was bringing technology to nomadic children in the northern parts of China back in the late 80s. So I've had a very, very interesting career like Selma and others. Our paths have crossed in this world of digital education, and I can honestly say that with the support of my family, and they're all here tonight, and I know I'm going to embarrass them because I told them I would give them the shout out. My daughter Kimberly, my daughter Amy, my daughter Katie, her significant other Rudy, my daughter Andrea, and my son-in-law Brian, with their love, support, and really desire to see me succeed, they've always been in my corner, if you will. Having been, if you will, a school superintendent, and I see some fellow colleagues here who served as school superintendents with me, Mira Grasso O'Neill, I saw earlier, my good friend Andy DiPaolo, Mike Malone, I don't know if Michael is still here. There's Michael. To be a school superintendent, probably without the support of family and friends, and especially those closest to you, one could never be successful. So I stand here really tonight in awe of what Boston State College, as it morphed into the University of Massachusetts at Boston, has become, what it represents, what it stands for, what Chancellor Motley has made it, really as the only public university in the city of Boston, as really, if you will, a pillar of the community, a pillar of really what quality public universities can be and what they can become. And this university is on vertical climb. No matter where you are, no matter where I talk, I proselytize what the University of Massachusetts Boston has become, what it will be, and I can honestly say that no one is prouder than I am of receiving this award, but really being affiliated with Boston State College and the University of Massachusetts Boston. So thank you all so very, very much.
Thank you, John, for those very thoughtful words. There was this couple, and they were shopping in one of the Galleria malls, Christmas shopping. And the wife looked up, and the husband wasn't there. And she got very concerned because they had a very busy day ahead of them. And she began looking for him and couldn't find him. So finally, she called him on his cell phone. "Where are you?" she said. "Well, honey," he said, "you remember that jewelry store that we went into 5 years ago? And you admired that diamond necklace so much that we could not afford, and I said that someday I would go back to that store." "Oh," she said with a tear in her eye, "I do remember that store very well. Well, I'm in the bar next door." Our third honoree this evening is a proud member of the Boston State College staff, Cowell D'souza. From your early days as a Harvard University graduate student intern in the Boston State Office of Grants and Contracts, and I remember way back in 1979, Cowell, to your many leadership positions at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, you have championed a singular cause, educational opportunity for all. In a most distinguished career in public service, you have applied your knowledge, your professional skills, and tremendous passion to ensure that first-generation college students, those with disabilities, and veterans have the resources to realize their higher education aspirations. During your decades-long tenure at Boston State and UMass Boston, you brought boundless energy to address those in need, delivering services, providing solutions, offering advice one person at a time. As the university's ADA compliance officer and director of the Ross Center for Disabilities, you made inclusion your top priority. It would be difficult to think of a person who has done more, after Chancellor Motley, to promote the interest of Boston State College than Cowell, than Ms. D'Souza. I've got my notes mixed up here, but I just want to say that I've known you for 30-something years. You're really a passionate person who has Boston State's interest in mind. If it wasn't for Cowell, I don't think we'd have a Boston State room. But I want to introduce someone to you who's a great champion and cheerleader for Boston State College, Cowell D'souza.
Hey, Carol. You.
At least we have the 4-foot podium. Usually I follow Keith on a 5-foot podium. I am honored to share this podium with Selma and John, and unlike John, I will not be brief. I didn't want to surprise you, so. Thank you to Chancellor Motley, as always. A man who, as Selma noted, embodies education for service. And it's been my privilege to work with Keith for many, many years, even before he was chancellor here. I thank Arthur Bowles and Ed and the committee members for nominating me and for agreeing to provide this award. I thank Casey Gavin, I think she left the room, for all the arrangements. Linda O'Brien, who I'm told wrote the nomination. Thanks to Juan, Anna, and Corrine, my family, from the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, for the flowers, but more importantly for being here and being such a support to me. And thank you to Jerry Burke for stopping the jokes long enough for me to speak. He knows I love him. This celebration each year gives us the opportunity to renew our memories. And certainly I don't have as many years of memories of Boston State College as most of you do. It also gives us the opportunity to celebrate a living legacy and keep the mission and memory of Boston State College alive. And this is where I do want to spend a few minutes this evening. My experiences at Boston State came at a critical time, and it gave me perhaps the unique opportunity to see the expressions of pride, the fight, the arguments, the history, to relive some of the legacy. I saw firsthand a spirit of togetherness, togetherness in crisis perhaps, but nonetheless, the opportunity for many faculty and students who may not have expressed such feelings about the place to suddenly come forth and express appreciation and candor. But tonight I would like to highlight another part of this community, namely the administrators and staff who many times are overlooked in describing or praising or remembering an institution and a legacy. Beyond the faculty and students are the folks behind the scenes who support the institution, who are committed, and who successfully handle the many changes through the years. In 1979, I shared an office with Linda Parado in the Office of Grants and Contracts under Ray Rothamel, and I wrote along with a team of people who developed grants for federal and state, corporate and foundation funding. And we were very successful in this endeavor, despite the times and despite the uncertainty. Some of the programs are still in operation to this day. Some have even become degree programs here at UMass Boston. One such grant was under the guidance of Leo Hanley and Carol Nectow to develop a reading clinic and an after-school program in Roxbury, which is still in some form of operation at this time. Boston State College was certainly an important member of the community in which it was located. As I worked, I listened to the ideas of many faculty members, Jack Looney, Terry Mortimer, Marty Quitt, and others, so that I could write the grants and fill in the chapters. I heard reasons why Boston State College was such an integral part of the community. I heard about the history of the place. I saw the enthusiasm of the faculty. I saw the commitment to improve things and do what was needed to get more monies to support expansion. These were the reasons our grant proposals were so successful. They expressed not just answers to survey questions in an RFP, but rather the heart and soul of an institution. We were able to put on paper the legacy of an institution, and one that was struggling to keep its legacy alive, to stay with an established, powerful identity while striving to influence a new structure and prepare for an uncertain future. From my very own, very unique perspective, I was almost an outsider looking in. I had no allegiances. I was being paid by Harvard and not the state. I had no agenda. I had no axe to grind. I was not feeling the pain myself, so others were able to use my shoulder to cry on, to express their uncertainty, to share their grief about their pending loss, to worry about the travel to other institutions of higher education somewhere in the state of Massachusetts. But while the faculty members were worried about such things, the staff members had more to be concerned about. Were there enough secretaries over at the harbor or downtown at Park Street? Were there enough people working in the registrar's office? What about admissions? Mary and Ed are here tonight. They were two who worried about those questions. What about financial aid? How do they run counseling and advising activities over at the harbor? Do they have a full staff in their library? What about IT? How many are in facilities? Do they need plumbers and electricians? What about that Institute for Learning and Teaching? What does that mean for the College of Education? What about John Silver's objections to the continuation of the nursing school? On the Monday after Thanksgiving in 1979, we placed in the mail the proposal for the Title III federal grant, one that was completed on Thursday. That's right, Thanksgiving. The Thursday before in Ray Rothamel's den, while his wife Donna was finishing the turkey and stuffing in their kitchen. Linda Parada, Marty Quitt, and others were involved. I was told in Washington, D.C., when the proposal was eventually funded, that it was one of the best works of fiction they had ever read. You see, Title III is for strengthening developing institutions. We asked for $3 million for an institution started in 1852. Not one, just developing. But in the turning of the regulations in the year that followed, we scrambled to rewrite some portions, and we made it a grant for an institution developing into a new institution, a new model. Some programs which were developed from the Title III monies are still influencing this institution today. The Instructional Media Lab is now the Master's Program in Instructional Design. The Student Support Services Program is alive and well, and thanks to Ellie Kutz, was one of the perfect scoring proposals of its time. But I don't want to paint those years as all peaches and cream. It was far from it. I personally found it most hurtful in the graduation ceremony in June 1982, sitting in the Clark Gymnasium in the bleachers, holding my cap and gown. You see, I was told that only faculty members march with the students. Very different from our family celebrations at Boston State College, especially after a semester of moving trucks and resettling furniture and finding that furniture which did survive on the upper levels of the tower building. Then, of course, you may remember the walled-off Astoria, the new home of the College of Education on the 3rd floor of the Science Building. The walls were made by carefully placing the file cabinets. Well, maybe not so carefully. Some of them came crashing down. Fast forward now to 2006. On January 24th, as I approached Darrell Byers in the advancement office and said, "What are you doing next year at this time?" I told him we would be celebrating the 25th silver anniversary of the merger with Boston State. We would be reviving the legacy which for many years had been kept under wraps. We would be celebrating again, and I am very glad I pushed this agenda. I have recently retired after devoting my entire career of 45 years to public service, the last 33 of which were initiated at Boston State College. And I am very happy that I have this opportunity to, as I said earlier, celebrate a living legacy and keep the mission and memory of Boston State College alive. Distinguished members of Boston State community have preceded me in receiving this award, from scholars of military history to outstanding educators in early childhood education and leadership in the state college system. You have given me the opportunity to celebrate my achievements as a staff member at Boston State College and remember Boston State as a community of tremendous educators, learners, and achievers, and a most talented group of staff to support all of them. On behalf of the many others who work from behind the scenes, I gratefully accept this award only if you allow me to share it with many. As my name is seen on that plaque in the Boston State Room, of which I am so proud, next door, please read it and remember the names of many administrators and staff it represents. I would ask that Harry Brett take a second picture and include the administrators and staff members of Boston State College who are here tonight for our photo. We, together, thank you very much. We are humbled and grateful for this honor.
Thank you very much, Carol. I apologize for misplacing my words. I did write some words for Carol, and I'd like to just read them. Tonight we celebrate excellence and service, the excellence demonstrated by our honoree Carol, by her positive attitude, by the service performed by her. We have gathered to recognize an individual who has affirmed what is good in all of us, the unchanging truth that never falls out of favor, that concern for others and positive achievement go hand in hand, and that taken together give meaning to our lives. Thank you, Carol, for your tireless effort and leadership to preserve and advance the goals of Boston State College. It has been my privilege to know you. As I mentioned in the outset, my Boston State colleague and friend and 2011 Education for Service Award winner, John Moon, is here tonight. At last year's event, John received this honor along with his wife, English professor Joan Moon, also a colleague and friend of mine. Joan has been an active member of the Boston State College Steering Committee since its inception and has been a mainstay at this annual event. Unfortunately, she has been ill this past year and unable to join us. Many of you have asked about her. I'd like to give John the opportunity to say a few words about Joan. John, would you please come forward?
Since many friends of my wife, Joan Moon, are present, I wanted to take the occasion to tell you about a prolonged illness. It is a cautionary tale as well as a story worth commemorating. In April, Joan had an operation to repair a heart valve. It was a success. 24 hours later, in the intensive care unit at Beth Israel, Joan suffered a massive stroke which paralyzed her right side, leaving her speechless and semi-conscious. I could not reach her in the fathomless dark pit into which her mind and memory had fallen. The doctors were uniformly pessimistic, citing her age and the severity of her stroke. I was told she would never go home. Just before her transfer from Beth Israel to Spalding in Cambridge, she uttered her first words since her stroke. When a nurse asked her how she felt, Joan, in a moment of splendid denial, said, "Fine." Gradually more words came. Recognition lit her eyes. The grip of her left hand strengthened. From the dark world in which she was held captive, she was signaling us that her mind was still there. Where we saw dawning light, the decision-makers at Spalding saw only darkness. Under pressure from the insurance company, they began to pressure for her transfer to another facility. They badgered me to sign a no resuscitation form. Repeatedly, I refused. In a meeting with the administrators, which I attended with my son John, the chief nurse practitioner brushed aside our observations on Joan's signals of recovery. What you are seeing is merely reflex actions. As we left, I turned to John. They've triaged her. Later, meeting with my family, I told them they don't know Joan. She's a fighter. She's Irish. They never know when they are beaten. So we transferred her to a rehabilitation facility in Chestnut Hill. And there, slowly and steadily, the unpredicted happened. She began to return to us. Her speech, her memory, her wit reawakened. I spent hours reading to her from the classics that we both love, from Shakespeare to Jane Austen. Her commentary was sharply perceptive. Increasingly, she startled me with a new signal of her recovery. The turning moment came in an exchange over my cooking abilities, which was a family joke. When I told her that I had finally managed to flip an egg correctly, she smiled archly up at me. "Don't let it get to your head." So she fought through the darkness to return to us. She captivated the staff at the rehab facility with her gentle smile and her stoic endurance. She prevailed over repeated infections, a series of seizures, several emergency rushes from the rehabilitation facility to Beth Israel. Joan half conscious in the ambulance. She endured the monotony of waiting on the emergency floor of the hospital for doctors who never seemed to come, the repeated tests that followed, the boredom of immobility. Always the welcoming smile, always the cheerful, "I am fine," even when she was not. A true profile in courage. I'm happy to tell you that in 2 weeks I will be taking her back home.
Nothing else to be said.
Please, John, convey to Joan our thoughts and prayers, please. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of you for coming this evening, for taking part in our Education for Service Award ceremony. Please join me in one final round of applause for tonight's recipients. Although this concludes the formal program, our reception will continue, and the Chancellor and the committee invite you to stay and enjoy the great company, to spend time in Boston State College room next door. You'll note that the display includes a special dedication plaque on which the names of the past and tonight's recipients will be registered. The steering committee also invites you to join us in our efforts to further Boston State legacy. If you'd like to get involved, please see Arthur Bowes or any other members of the steering committee. Thank you for coming this evening. Please enjoy the rest of the evening. Have a great Christmas and a happy holidays.